It's Retro Podcasts with your host, Retro Lion. We talk music, entertainment, films, and more. And now, here he is, live, Retro Lion. Naheem Garcia, welcome to Retro Podcast. How have you been?
I've been well. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me.
Certainly. You have had quite the year. You were in a movie called The Holdovers, and you also were in a movie called Challengers. And for those two movies, was it an audition process or were you called by your agent?
Nope, I had to audition for both movies. To tell you the truth, when I auditioned for The Holdovers, I didn't know who Alexander Payne was. I knew his movies. One of my favorite movies, I think is the not The Departed, my God, I'm drawing a blank. It's about the family in Hawaii with George Clooney, and it was a beautiful film, and I loved it. And then when when I met him, I did the audition, I did the callback, he liked it, and he said, would you like to be in my movie? And I said, yes, and I was the third person. He said, you're about the second or third person casted in my movie. He was waiting for one more person, which happened to be Divine. And then he casted Dom, and the rest is history. So, but when I walked out of the callback, I said, let me Google this man, see who he is. And I'm like, and I'm thinking I'm doing this guy a nice favor, this gentleman, a nice favor or something. This guy is a 600-ton gorilla. He was a 2-time Oscar award-winning director, writer. I'm like, you picked me? It was the big deal that Alexander Payne chose me to be in this movie. And it was a great process. And it was probably one of the most important times in my life as an actor where I really was trying to be more of a film actor, and in that moment as a film artist versus an actor that knows how to go on stage, just really be in that moment. That scene that Divine, that I think got Divine the outside of her whole performance, which was just exquisite. But the scene that really did it was that kitchen scene. Mm-hmm. I know I went on a random, but that's what happens when you throw me a little something, I go off. So that was that scene, that was a beautiful moment to be in that moment with her, and to see the honesty of her character, see her as an actress really being this person, and having an honest moment and being able to give her what she needed. All of us in that room was able to give her what she needed. So that was a beautiful experience. So yeah, The Holdovers, and and then there was a few little independent movies in between.
Nice. And was Holdovers an independent film, or was it originally an independent film bought later by Universal?
I believe, and that might be an Alexander Payne question, but I believe that if Miramax was behind it, I believe this is a studio film, not studio, but whatever Miramax is, I believe they're behind it.
Nice. And speaking of Holdovers, it's my new favorite Christmas movie, and I have the collector's edition right here. And is Christmas your favorite holiday?
I enjoy the holiday. I think it's a beautiful time for family and friends to come together. So I enjoy all the holidays. I don't have a favorite, or I just enjoy anything that gives an excuse for people to come together and celebrate life.
Nice. And since this movie took place in the 70s, was it cool to go back in time to
yes,
1970s era?
I was reliving my childhood.
Nice.
I was watching all the clothes that my father and my mother and the adults in my life wore, the clothes that I wore, the houses. When we walked into this house, I was like, I remember this place. I lived in a place like this. It was a nice trip to memory lane. It was nice to be in that moment, as an adult. It was weird, right?
Yeah.
I was a kid during that time. Now I'm back here in this imaginary world that's 1970 something, and I feel, and it's a little different because now I'm an adult, and it forced me to get deep into it, right? Mm-hmm. Deep into the idea of what was it like for my parents as adults during that time period, and also being Black and being Hispanic. I'm Cuban, but still, no one's asking me where I'm from. They're looking at me and they already put me in a box. Right. So what was it like during that time period, for my parents who were immigrants here in this country trying to make it? So now I take that and I put it into this only two black people working in this school, a privileged place, by the way. Not everybody gets to work there, you know. And I was allowed to give it some kind of a background, give my character some kind of, how did he get here? Why is he here? And who is he to this character? Who am I to not just Mary, but to the professor and to Dom and to this, who was I? What's my relationship to these people? And I'm the same guy has been around for a long time. I probably came out, I said, I probably came out of a Korean War situation, a Vietnam vet. No, Vietnam was happening. So I probably came out of a Korean War situation, and I probably ended up in this part of town. For all I know, some old military person there knew me, gave me a job, and that's where I've been. Did I get married? Did I not? I don't know. Mary just happens to be the other person who's there with this child, single mother, and she wasn't just a cook. She ran the entire kitchen. She fed these students at this school for many years. So these people had they had legs. They were established characters, and they were established Black people in this institution. Let's just say it is what it is, right? Only two Black people working in this whole thing and probably in this town at the time. So, because I knew growing up what it was like in the 70's here in Boston. Mm-hmm. I knew there were sections of town where you could be the only one. So I'm saying all this to think about what I came with when I brought this character. I was coming with all this, just to simplify the fact that he's a nice guy. He could be in love. He might be in love, or he's just being a very nice man to a very lovely woman in a very tough time.
Yeah, there's certainly a mystery behind your character.
It could have gone. They could have done a lot with it. They could have done, but I think what they just did gave it enough. Gave it enough for people to think about the conversation. How many relationships do we have with people that we just adore and love, but sometimes we're safe just to remain in that space? Mm-hmm. Right? When you cross that line, what that line is you decided to make it more than what it was, and now it's something else, because she had to invite him. She invited him to the house. She met him at the party, she invited him. He never pushed himself. He never said, let me come with you, giving her a gift. Like, he just wanted to give her some love. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what that character, I think Alexander saw that the actor wanted to give that character. There was nothing deep about it. There was what's the mystery? This is what you got. Make it work. And what I made work was, I'm just a guy that's here working. And this woman who I like very much, whose son, who I get to spend some time, who knows her son may have, on certain times helped me out as a janitor to make extra money, or just hung out. Mm-hmm. Just think about it. He's the only other Black image, and he's the male. So we don't know. You got to build these relationships in your head when you're coming with a character. That's an actor's job. You got to give it a life. These are not just something that you see on paper. These are individual characters that had a life. They have a life. They have a life. Even if it's fictional, it's still a life. And you got to give it substance. And I think it was really nice to be able to have that kind of boundary.
Understood. So it's basically because every character has their own story. Every person's the main character.
Why are they here? They're all telling this story. They're all part of this story. So if you're a part of this story and you're telling that story, it all connects. And there's a reason why people are here. As an actor, I have to think about, why am I here? Who am I? Who am I while I'm here? How did I get here? Maybe that's first. How did I get here? Why am I here? And who am I supposed to be while I'm here? And then what's my relationship to all these people? I mean, the fact that he could come at the end of the day and look at the professor and the kid and say, somebody threw up over there. I know it's one of you two because I saw you, because I'm watching everything. I'm the real security of the whole campus. I probably know everything on campus and everybody's business, right? Think about my character. He's cleaning the toilets, man. The guy cleaning the toilet knows everything. He's probably the most empowered character between him and the kitchen, right? I could go into, and I could get real historical and set up the relationship between the house slave and the field slave, right? Mm-hmm. They had a great connection. They knew everything. So it's the same thing with the janitor and the cook. She fed everybody. I cleaned everybody's toilet. we had to know everybody's business.
Mm-hmm.
So the spicy conversations in the kitchen after hours about this and that and the other. So the professor, how many times have he come downstairs, not, and has done this with Mary, had a couple of drinks. What you didn't see is him sitting down a couple of times and maybe sitting in the basement or in the office at the janitor's office having a conversation. That may have happened, but you have to have all those possibilities because you have to come into this as it's a full world. When you love this movie because this movie gave you everything, a world that you saw yourself in that world. You saw yourself in that film. Even if it's in a different time period, you saw yourself. This is why you love the movie. This is why the movie's loved. And I hope it becomes a holiday favorite for all.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's getting ready to hit the fan very soon because we're walking into the holidays, but I hope it, just like Spirited. I also did Spirited and had an opportunity to do my fifth film with Ryan Reynolds, and
Love that movie.
Another Christmas movie. So, Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, Spirited, and Sean Andrews directed it. So I had those opportunities to be in movies that will be forever watched in the most tender time, in the most sensitive time in the season. The holidays are tough, man. And people need some love, and people need something to bring them joy. And to know that there's a few Christmas movies, about 4 or 5 of them that I'm involved with, that people will always watch from here till people don't watch TV no more.
As it's all streaming.
It's streaming, and people get to watch it, and to be a part of that is a real honor. I don't know how far this career of mine is going to go. I'm willing to go as far as it's going to let me. I'm very thankful to you and other folks that allow me to come to their platform and talk about me. And my partner, she had raised the question about, hearing yourself. Like, people that like to hear themselves talk, that's a serious thing. That's a serious thing because, scientifically, from what she explained, we don't always we shouldn't like to hear how we sound. Therefore, giving more emphasis to observation and silence, right? That's empowering. So the opportunity to be able to sit in a platform like this and talk about my journey is not just flattering, it's an honor. We could have had somebody else who decided to talk to little old me. So thank you. Well, thank you to the listeners out there that are constantly listening in to want to hear my story. I know I went on a whole rant again. I told you, you got to reel me in, man.
Hey, this is like therapy. This is where we tell our stories, and the purpose of the show is that it doesn't, because like when we watch talk shows and podcasts, we hear all the famous people. Well, the purpose of the show is not just dealing with famous people in the media, but it's everyone, even those that are trying to get to where they want to be, because everyone needs to have a voice, everyone needs an opportunity, and with this type of show, it will give everyone those opportunities in the future.
I like your animation, by the way.
Thank you.
I was interested. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, it's Halloween
themed. You think about it. Somebody's going to put you on their show and they have animation, and just to know that you're becoming a part of a character in other people's story, right?
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. The world is full of stories. We all have a kitchen, right? And a living room and a porch and a backyard. People are constantly telling stories, even if it's in a second, they're constantly telling stories. So to be a storyteller and to be part of that machine that tells stories, it's a big responsibility. It really is. I mean, people think you just get up there and say some lines without thinking about that. Somebody put these words out because they heard somebody else say it. These words belong to a living person. Somebody said these words. And between all of that, I also had the opportunity to be in an August Wilson play, King Henry II, by Actor Shakespeare Project, and directed by Summer Williams. And it was one of the most intense moments of my life because this was one of August Wilson's most darkest plays, one of the most heaviest plays, longest plays. The character I played when I was introduced to it, I was about 30-something years old. This is a 67-year-old character. 20-something years later, it catches up with me. And as an actor, I had to go into this, and the responsibilities that I had to really understand. This man wrote his words are my words. I just got to say it the way he wrote it, right?
Mhm.
Alexander and George wrote these words, right? These words are written. They're words that I'm familiar with. I just need to say it the way they wrote it and tell the story the way they want.
Mhm.
And that's a big responsibility as an actor, as an individual that accepted to do this as a job, as a career. You're like a chef. When you cook that meal, those ingredients have to be right. You don't want to serve anybody a bad dish. You don't want to give anybody a bad performance.
Or food poisoning.
I don't know how I went into this rant and rave moment, but it's something about, I think it's a big responsibility of an individual that accepts a part and takes on a part to tear it apart and give that character a life. We're not creating fictional people because we made it up in our head. They come from something alive.
And for future artists, future actors that want to go into the movie industry, what is the best advice you would pass on to them?
First of all, know your craft. If you're going to be an actor, director, know that that's what you want to do. Love it. Have respect for it. Know and understand the rules of it. And then be responsible and do your job. If you really want to do it, then you're going to go out there and you're going to find out who's doing acting troops so you can get your chops nice and sharpened. You're going to look into, if there's plays, how can you audition? You're going to look for it. People that just sit up and want it to happen, they don't want to do this because this is not an easy career to go into. You're talking about putting yourself in other people's shoes. You're talking about taking on emotions and feelings from other ideas that are not yours. And you're talking about a lot of triggers. Elmore pressed more triggers. Elmore and King Henry II, August Wilson's play, pressed more triggers than anything else because it was constant trauma. That's a craft. That's a skill. You have to know how to handle that. That's why some people go crazy. That's why some actors get weird after a while because you can get into the character, but you can't get out. The good part about, like, I think about Divine and how she got into Mary, and she had to find a Boston accent, and she had to find, she had to think like this other person. And when she got into it, because I saw her eyes, I looked in her eyes when she was in that moment, in that kitchen, as many moments. It's even when we were doing the moment at the party. It was just nice to have that moment to really be in it. I think that's what made the movie work. People came, especially Paul and Dom. Dom, how many people you meet have that natural ability? First time, and this is what you're doing? What is yet to come? We just found out that he's about to play the chef. Oh my goodness, the chef, Anthony, the one that passed away. Anthony Bourdain.
I'm trying to think of his name. It's yes. Yes.
Yeah, we just found out he got casted to play that character. It's a deep character. And the fact that somebody thinks he can play it, I can't wait to see it.
Same here.
I don't mean to talk, but you know what? I'm not in this alone. I live off of these folks, and they live off of me, and I'm very proud of them, and I hope they're very proud of me. And if not, that's okay. I'm proud of myself, and you're proud of me because you wanted me on your show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's enough.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly. We are coming down to the end of the interview, and we have 2 questions left.
Let's go.
The first one is about, what was your experience getting to work on the film Challengers?
First of all, shout out to the entire production team. Shout out to Zendaya. She's a class act. She's a young lady who I've seen through TV, and she's grown to be a producer, to produce film, to provide jobs for people. So I applaud her. She can give you little girl, she can give you teenager, she can give you grown and sexy, she can give you professional, she can give you
humor.
I mean, and humor, lots of humor. So, and she's fun. It was a great experience. It was the first time I was casted in Boston and taken out of town to go work somewhere else. I have no complaints. It was business as usual. We went there, we did it. It was great. And I said, can we do it again? I would have loved to have a little more dialogue with her. I would love to work with her again in a much bigger capacity. Um, she has a nice rhythm. As an actress, I would like to have that moment, you know, that double Dutch moment, that salsa moment that you get with another character. Certain people have certain vibes, and like I was watching her in Dune and watching her in Dune 2, and those moments that she had where it was innocent and then warrior. That's a talent. And when you're acting with actors that bring that to the table, that's a high, man. That you would. It's speechless. You got to experience it to know exactly what I mean. But if I could, uh, that was a beautiful experience. I didn't see it coming. When I auditioned, I did my self tape. I was teaching at I'm a teaching artist. So through the Huntington Theater Company, I was working on August Wilson New Voices monologue competition. I was doing a residency at a school. There was a lunch break. I went into a room. I put a table. I put my phone, and I did it. And next thing you know, I got called in for it, and they offered to part. And I was like, wow. And then I got to stay for, I got a nice little ride out of it. And then we was sent to New York. I was like, this is a great deal. It was great. It was great. It was a great experience. I mean, even bad experiences are great. And I'm going to say this, because if it wasn't for the bad, you wouldn't know how good is, right? And if it wasn't for wrong, you wouldn't know how much right is. So bad experiences are good too, because if you can live through them, you learn from them, and you can build from them.
Very true.
So even though all experiences haven't been glorified, and even in those beautiful moments, there are moments where it's like, when are we gonna wrap this up? It's work. It's work. It's my job. It's work. And we're not always, I don't mind going to work. It's the job, right? I don't mind honestly, I don't mind the job, having a job, it's going to work, but sometimes it can be tough. Sometimes it can be hard. You're dealing with creativity. The director, I didn't do a lot with him. He just, he didn't give me a lot because I wasn't one of the characters that he needed to focus on. He had to deal with these two young men. Zendaya, I think it's one of the few times we get to see her be this grown and be a woman, a mother. She was a mother in this movie, a wife. I believe it's one of the first time I get to see her do it, and so that was a nice experience. It was work. There was time. It was hot. So cheers to everybody that sat under that hot sun and did the job, from the extras to the production team to the actors, principals. It was tough on everybody, but everybody was really in harmony. Nobody gave each other. If there was anything funky going on, I didn't know anything about it. That's how clean it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember going to see it in the movie theater, in the theater that I was in. It was like this. Which I haven't been in this theater since I was a kid, and it's funny because this is like one of those ultra screens they have in a movie theater.
From
Like
back in the days.
the screen filled up the whole room.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything was junk.
Yeah, it was almost like,
big.
I mean, it wasn't like a dome, but it was almost like a dome filling the whole room.
Where you got to sit way in the back to make sure it works with your visual.
Yeah,
I wear glasses. Something like that is like,
Yeah. Well, we have 5 minutes left of the interview, and since from when we were having the holdovers discussion and going back to the 70s was like going back in time, did you have any favorite? Is there any favorite products? Do you remember having in the 70s, or something you enjoyed in the 70s?
oh my goodness. So back here in Boston, we had soul food chips, soul chips. We had what else? The orange line, which is gone. I can only give you what I had bought, but Frosted Flakes, the original. Totals, the original.
They were delicious.
Pro Cats. Better than Procats better than Conquest back then, like Procats. Um, I used to love watching Fat Albert. Um, Battlestar Galactica. I mean, not Battlestar Galactica back then, but um, a lot of the comics that were back then. Fred Flintstone was a favorite. George Jetson was my favorite. Soap, the show.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, I was too young to watch it, but I was watching it. Money Hunt, Retta, the Partridge Family. You know, I could go on and on and on and on and on. Channel 38, which was a special down here. You know, there's a favorite soda. Coca-Cola back then was my favorite. Pop, Orange Pop was great. Wow. Bazooka gum was great. And then you get the cards, the sports cards. Oh, those were great. Yeah. So and also back here in Boston, we had something called Summer Thing. And
Mhm.
that's when they used to come out with this trailer, park it out in the middle of some block,
Oh,
and
yeah.
a band come out and play, and it'd be a block party. Those kind of things are gone. I miss drive-ins. Drive-ins were a favorite. Those were times I got to spend with my parent in the car, and it was cool. You were allowed to go and run around, but these movies and this big giant screen, and everybody sitting in the car hearing it, and those were great times. Those are really great times. Yeah.
Yeah. As a person
As
who's 25, I've always wanted to experience a drive-in.
old as my youngest child, and shout out to my children, Naheem, Jaheem, and Helena, and Jordan, and Jason. Peace to all of you, and my grandson is here. Yep, that's what I want to say.
Naheem, thank you again for coming on today's episode, and happy early Halloween.
Happy early Halloween and success to you and your show. And let's do this again on the next one.
Yes. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and follow us on Instagram. See you next week.